Hello everyone! Flydigi has sent me an early sample of the Apex 4, and they say that with this controller they have redesigned and refined the Apex 3. So let's take a deep look and see what changes it brings to the table. This letter says that in 2024, Flydigi self-developed analog sticks with adjustable tension. In the box you get the controller, a braided USB cable, and that's just a standard cable, is not 3.0. You get the dongle, and on the small box here, you have the manuals, and the customizable plates to insert in the front of the controller. Like in the Apex 3, you have these plates in the black color, but on the Apex 4, these plates are in the silver color. This is Flydigi's first premium controller in the white color, and it looks very nice. Definitely a strong contender for the best design of 2024. On the top, the triggers has a see-through transparent plastic, but they're not showing any special structure inside. On the Apex 3, we had a glossy finish on the shell, which is much easier to collect fingerprints and scratches. But on the Apex 4, we have a glossy finish. And they also brought back the capture button, which was not present on the Apex 3. Sadly, the C and Z buttons from the Vader 3 Pro were removed. The Apex 4 is also the heaviest controller of the Flydigi family. The Apex 3 was the first to have mecha tactile buttons, just like the Vader 3 Pro. And we have those same buttons here on the Apex 4, but this time they are a bit easier to press. The resistance was slightly reduced. The buttons won't sink too flat with the shell when you press them all the way down. And we can already see the new analog sticks developed by Flydigi themselves. This is very different from what we have on all other controllers. The sticks are removable and the tension can be adjusted through this screw here. The D-pads are the same of all other Flydigi controllers. And they really should start selling these D-pads in different colors. The silver D-pad from the Vader 3 Pro looks much better on the Apex 4. But the Apex 4 on the Vader 3 is not as good. The screen on the Apex 3 is very easy to spot, but on the Apex 4 it is hidden under the mirror-like structure. You can still see it depending on the angle you look at. The back buttons has the same quality as always, very easy to press and very responsive. And the same goes to the triggers and shoulder buttons. As you can see here, it is easy to spot fingerprints in the mirror section of the controller, but it's very easy to clean it as well. On the side, we have the LEDs and a window to see the rumble motors in action. On the Apex 3, we had a mascot in the center of the screen, and he would react to your button presses. Now the mascot is gone and we have this animation instead. Also, the menus on the Apex 3 were only in Chinese. It wasn't hard to understand, the menus were pretty simple, and you could only change a few options. Now on the Apex 4, we finally have the English language. It is much better, and now you can customize many more options that were not available on the Apex 3. Also, this time you can use the screen to customize the buttons on the back. You can also use it to enable turbo, and here we have a macro function that is not available right now, but will be enabled in future updates. With the screen, you can apply a few different presets to the triggers. You can achieve the trigger lock functionality on the Apex 3 too, by messing with the configurations in the racing mode. So this trigger lock setting is basically what we have on the Vader 3 Pro, but in a simulated way. The only difference here is that the trigger can't pass the lock point. It's just harder to do because the motors are pushing back in the full strength. Now let's talk about the analog sticks. On the Apex 3 and all other controllers, the sticks feels normal, just like any other controller. But on the Apex 4, they feel different. They're much more smooth, and they snap back in a bouncy manner. It definitely feels unlike anything I've seen before. And this bounciness made me worried about the behavior in games. But as you can see here, it's not that bad. There is no bounce back and it snaps back to the center. The original stick snaps a bit faster though. On original controllers, the sticks can also get crusty with time. This was fixed on the Vader 3 Pro and a few other controllers, with anti-friction rings to minimize the wear on the base of the stick. But on the Apex 4, they've pushed this limit even further. There is just no sound of friction at all. Seriously, I think it can't get any better than this. To adjust the tension, you have to remove both sticks, the D-pad and the faceplate. The faceplate of the Apex 3 is different and won't fit here. To adjust the tension, you must tighten or loose this screw here. And to do that, you have this tool on the side. I will tighten this side to the max, and I will loosen the other side all the way. And be careful with the plastic when tightening this side, because the plastic here can be scratched. And you can tell how much the screw has been tightened just by looking at it. And when using it, wow, it's a big difference. The right stick is really hard. Not hard to a point where it's unusable, but definitely not comfortable for long gameplay sections, unless you want a 6-pack on each of your thumbs. And the left side is really soft and easy to move. It's definitely great for quick movements with the stick, and it perfectly snaps back to the center every single time. To give you an idea on the resistance of the sticks, just check this example. You can move the left stick with a piece of paper. And the right stick, it is rock solid. To calibrate both of the sticks evenly, I recommend to tighten them all the way. After that, you can line up each screw vertically and then release 1/3 on each screw. Also, if you want to customize the plate, I recommend using a very sharp tool. The tool they sent is not sharp enough and you won't be able to add much detail. If you had the charging base of the Apex 3, it will work with no problems. It is also compatible with Flydigi app on smartphones, and the Flydigi clip too. Testing on PC, we have no dead zones in the center and no dead zones in the axis. The circularity test is not perfect, but is not bad either. It's the same of any other regular controller. The analog triggers are very precise, and if you enable the trigger lock mode, they will work like digital triggers. Needless to say, the Dpad retains the same quality. The diagonals are easy to press, and now they have fixed the issue that when you press on the center, all the directions are activated. The buttons are still being pressed physically, but they limit it through software to only press 2 directions. The D-input mode is present as well, and this time the air mouse is a bit too sensitive. I already sent this feedback for them and hopefully it will be fixed on newer updates. The polling rate test is quite amazing with 1100 Hz. I also tested it without the cable using the dongle and we have the same results. Checking the PC app, basically we have the same thing we had on previous controllers. We have 4 preset options. We can remap any button we want, including keyboard buttons. Ctrl, Shift and Tab also works. We can configure the joystick sensitivity and curves. On the motion sensing tab, we can add simulated gyro for each one of the sticks, as well as make it work as a mouse. On the trigger, we have all of the configurations I've shown before, and here you can tune them with finer detail. The last vibration mode will make the trigger push back, depending on the rumble on the controller. On the screen settings, we have the default mode and a few preset animations. You can also upload your own design. Here I have this design, and when I press apply, it will take a while, a long while. But after some time, it finally uploaded, and you can try all kinds of custom designs. Now, speaking about the adaptive triggers, I have said earlier that Flydigi can't win this battle against Sony because the Dualsense is compatible with the games on the release date, while Flydigi controllers have to be manually adapted through Flydigi themselves. With that said, you can see here that the list is not that big. But when checking Spider-Man Remastered here, you can see that there's 2 modes, Standard Mode and DS Mode. Standard Mode is the adaptive triggers made by Flydigi. And when you select DS Mode, this will simulate the Apex 3 or 4 as a DualSense controller to use the PS5's original adaptive trigger settings. It's still not perfect because you need to have the app installed and launched to make it work. Also, the game needs to be manually included to the app. As you can see, we don't have Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on this list, because Flydigi haven't manually added this game yet. Overwatch 2 is a game that Flydigi hasn't worked on, and it only has DualSense mode. So let's test with this game and see how it behaves.
Eu vou encontrar o meu próprio caminho.
For some reason, the adaptive triggers on this game is a bit weak, even on the original console. But on the Apex 4, it actually works better.
Eu vou encontrar o meu próprio caminho.
Você não pode escapar da morte.
Estamos nessa juntos, todos nós.
Por que buscar respostas quando não sabemos a pergunta?
Moving to the teardown, we have 2 screws on each side. After removing them, you can use a plastic tool to pry open the controller. And be careful with the flat cable here. On the back we have a 1500 mAh battery, and the back buttons are on a separate board as well. Here we can see the rumble motors, and the motors for the adaptive triggers. They're pretty similar to the motors on the Dualsense. And for the triggers, we have Hall effect sensors. To get to the other side, you have to remove these screws here, but only remove the bigger screws, do not remove the smaller ones. You will also have to remove this piece here for the rumble motors. Here we can see the Dpad and the board for the screen. And here's the Mecha tactile buttons. The button layout is fixed and cannot be changed. But since we are here, let's do a simple trick to improve the quality of the buttons. I did this on the Vader 3 Pro, and it should work with the Apex 4 as well. The idea is to apply keyboard lube to the buttonholes. You should use some on the buttons as well. Just don't put too much. Can you see the difference here in the reflection? This is the ideal quantity you need to use. Also, this is how the tool snaps in place. Now checking the other side, whoa, this is very different. These are the new self-developed modules from Flydigi. Here we can see the switches for the D-pad, and for the face buttons we have the same Kale switches. Also, there are metal pivots on the triggers. Now moving back to the sticks, these are Hall effect sticks, but they work in a very different way, and Flydigi sent me an additional module so I can show it to you. But if you're new to the channel, before showing the new sticks, let me show you the past models. This here is a potentiometer stick, basically what we have on a Nintendo Switch, PS5, Xbox. It's not a good stick and it can have drift because of the physical connections inside. This connection wears off over time and you have drift. Then we have the Hall effect sticks. With this we have no contact. The sensors on one side of the stick will detect the position of a magnet on the other side, and because of that we won't have drift issues. This one is a more compact version of the Hall effect sticks. This one is present on the Vader 3 Pro and many other controllers. With the new Flydigi stick we have something different. One of the magnets is located here. And the sensor is located on the board. This magnet and sensors are responsible for the up and down movements. On this other side, we have another magnet here, and the sensor is on a tiny PCB. With this other magnet and sensor, we can detect the left and right movements. And with both of them combined, we have up, down, left and right. Now the stick is this pillar-shaped object here in the center. And notice how it is on top of a seesaw structure. When you apply pressure on the other side of the seesaw, it will center the position of the stick. And the more pressure you put on the other side, the faster the stick will snap back to the center. And when pressing down on the stick, there is a tiny lever here that pushes a button on the board. This is responsible for the R3 and L3 presses. And the way they let you adjust the tension is by adding a spring and a screw on the other side. The screw is constantly applying pressure on the other side of the seesaw. When you tighten the screw and compress the spring, it will increase the tension, making the sticks harder. And when you release the tension, the sticks get more soft. And take a look at this structure here. This is a very tiny bearing. You know the fidget spinners, right? And how they spin freely without much effort. This is the same technology here. This is why the sticks feel so smooth and different from anything you've seen before. And this is it. I can only say applause to Flydigi. They innovated again and did something entirely different. When I saw the Apex 4 for the first time, I wasn't impressed at all. I thought that the sticks would feel the same as any other, and we already had something like this in the past with the Xbox Elite controllers. But with the controller in hand and after testing it, I can say that this is entirely different. These sticks feel so smooth that now I'm heavily considering if I should put aside the Vader 3 Pro and use the Apex 4 as my daily driver. Aiming with this controller is simply outstanding. And the triggers can simulate the trigger lock of the Vader 3 Pro, so the only thing you lose is the C and Z buttons. I still would like to see a plug-and-play compatibility with games that supports the Dualsense. But with the app being able to simulate the controller as a Dualsense for these games is already a big improvement. I'm still not a big fan of the screen, and I think this controller would feel much better if they had the same vibration motors as the Dualsense. And here's a personal challenge from me to Flydigi. I challenge you to make this controller work on the PS5 with PS5 games and using the adaptive triggers just like a Dualsense. There are ways to make it happen. It could be using a dongle just like the big one Rainbow 2 Pro, where you just need to attach an original Dualsense to the dongle to make it compatible. And we can already see some third-party products doing this, like this back button expansion for the original Dualsense. For my final thoughts, the Apex 4 is definitely an improvement over the Apex 3. The screen is more useful, the analog sticks are better, the face buttons are better, and it also has a higher polling rate. If you have an Apex 3, you could consider selling it and paying the difference to get the Apex 4. But if you have a Vader 3 Pro, I would only consider upgrading it if you really want those analog sticks. The Vader 3 Pro has 500 Hz of polling rate, and it has the C and Z buttons that the Apex 4 doesn't have. The trigger lock on the Vader 3 Pro is also more solid. So it's up to you if you want to give up on those qualities to get better analog sticks, a better polling rate, and adaptive triggers. And that's it for this review. Thanks for sticking with me in this long review to the very end. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.